Okay, guys. Coach Glenn Walker and myself are talking infielders, catchers, and hitting routines today. So my first question for you, Coach, is what does a typical day look like for your infielders? And like, do you do different things for your middle guys, your first baseman, third baseman? What's that kind of look like for you?
Yeah, so I was an infield guy, and I absolutely love it. I try to work with our infielders on a daily basis on different stuff. And I think for me, over the course of the years of coaching, the one thing that I've tried to do differently through the years is be a little more creative and try to give the kids different drills, different looks. We try to kind of keep it fresh and keep it active. And I'm a huge fan of multiple repetitions. Get as many out as you can in a short amount of time so the kids aren't standing around. I think I've talked about this before, but it's like during the start of the season, early March, late February, when it's freezing cold out and raining sideways, you see our field behind coach there, and we're on it every day, pretty much, unless it's just an absolute squall come through there or snowing, which we've actually played through. We're out on the field. So how are we going to get the kids active and keep them hot and loose and keep them from getting hurt? Well, so we typically start out with a base running set. We get them stretched. We do a base running set of some kind to kind of get their blood flowing above the dynamic warm-ups that we do before they ever throw, because we can do a base running, we can do rundowns, we can do a whole group of different activities and drills that allow us to not have to do them during the practice time. And then that also speeds them up a little bit, gets them ready to go, and then they go throw. From that point, we break off into our outfield, infield sets, and one of my favorite drills to do, doesn't really matter how many coaches you have, but if you're blessed with a big number, you'll have 4 fungos. One will be behind, over your left shoulder, coach, and one will be just in the right-hander battery box. The other 2 coaches are down by the warm-up circles, and we're hitting. So we have 4 coaches, 4 fungos, and we're going, at you ground balls to my third baseman, at shortstop, at second, and at first, all at the same time. We don't always have that. So we'll go 2 coaches, one in each batter's box pretty much, and one coach is going third to second, and one coach is going short and first. The big thing with the fungo drill is getting mass repetitions. I don't do a ton of coaching during that time because I just want a ton of reps. If I see something, I'll stop, holler at them, and keep going. And we always start with balls at them, and we want, proper technique. They get around the ball, get through the ball, right, left, catch, right, left, throw, and then they throw them in a bucket. And then we go 4 hands, so everybody goes at them, and then we all go left so that kids don't run into each other, right?
Yep.
Baseman and second baseman crashing into each other, and then we all go backhands. And we'll get through probably, 3-4 buckets of just that. And then we'll change it up, and this is where it gets a little bit more individualized. With this drill, we'll go 5-3, which just a ground ball to our third baseman, at him, forehand, backhand, gather and throw to first. At the same time, we're going 6-4 double plays. And ground ball at him, forehand, backhand, flips and feeds. So the communication there at second is happening probably 50, 60 times in that short set.
Yeah.
Then we'll slide it and we'll go, we'll change it up. We'll go 6-3 and 5-4s. And we never throw. We don't want to throw the, conversion of the double play because we don't want to kill the first baseman. Once we get through that set, and I can kind of show you what that looks like as far as how it's structured, but then we'll go kind of one ball at a time where, as I'll hit a ball with a 5-4-3, And then as soon as that play is complete, first baseman pops off, and my assistant will hit a ball 3-6-3. And so one kid at first base is getting maybe 2 reps. One coming from second, and then he's popping out. Now he's going to go 3-6-3. And so everybody is active, and that's the only time there might be a pause between who's getting the ball and not. But it's important to make sure that we don't kill somebody. So
Sure.
that's where that comes in. With that drill, we'll factor in slow rollers to third base for the run, throwing on the run. We'll factor in bunts to first base, so they're having to get around the ball out to third. And we'll kind of go that route. And then on certain days, we'll have strictly structured days where I'll stand behind the mound and we'll just strictly work on our double play turns and feeds. At the same time, we'll have another coach, maybe our catching coach, working with our third base and first base on throwing on the run, on bunt coverages. They can have the catchers throwing down to third, pick first, inside, outside kind of stuff. So depending on how many coaches we have and depending on the day, usually early in the season, we spend more time with that structured, individualized stuff. And as the season progresses, it's just multiple reps in 20 minutes. We've covered every single play or 30 minutes, every single play that they might have to try to put their mind at ease when it actually happens in the game.
It's awesome. I love it. Yeah, I like the 2 fungo stuff. That's good stuff. Lots of reps. I bought a machine a couple years ago when I was at Kamiak, and it's an ATEC that sits down low on the tripod and rolls.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I would just sit there and foom, 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 and just it was awesome. So I can't wait to buy one now that I'm at home, and that's like my first purchase.
Is it the ATEC Hover? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, the R3 they call it now, and it's so money. And you can shoot fly balls, ground balls, pop-ups. It's awesome. So yeah.
The one thing we tried to incorporate, I was watching. I spent a lot of time online watching videos and hearing things, and one of the things that I heard that made total sense to me was when we're hitting fungos, you got to hit them more game-like. I mean, how many balls are kids fielding that are backspin ground balls?
Sure, yeah.
We need to get on top of the ball and roll over the ball a little bit so that they're getting that, they're seeing the hops and they're seeing the forward movement on the ball, because that's 90% of the balls that they're fielding are going to be top spin balls. And so that kind of changed our thought process, not just getting out there just smacking balls, but trying to incorporate types of spin. The squivers, just making the ball do what it does, especially on our turf, how it responds to a ball off the bat.
Yeah, no, and I think that we talked about old school, new school, and all that stuff. And you watch a lot of coaches now, and they put their bottom hand on the bat and they flip with their top hand, right? And you get that good backspin line drive with that. Well, you look at old guys like my dad, he doesn't hit like that. He puts his top hand on the bat, puts his bat on his shoulder, and throws the ball up with this one and rolls over. And it's kind of interesting because I know what you're talking about with those Friday fielders guys, and they've been putting out statistics about backspin versus topspin. It's I think you're hitting the nail on the head with that. And it's definitely something I've noticed with coaches, how they hit their fungo and stuff like that. And that's another reason I like that machine, because they're all topspin. They come out and roll over, and good stuff. Right on. All right, next one. The classic saying is the catcher is the most important guy that gets the least amount of attention. And I've been guilty of this. I'm sure you have at some point. But what do you do to prepare your catchers each week?
This comes back to how many coaches you have, because like you said, I mean, if you have the luxury of having a guy that knows catching, or you have a guy that you can call a pitching / catching coach, you can say, even if he doesn't know a ton about the game, but you're going to take that group of kids and you're going to work strictly for 30 minutes on, and I'll tell him exactly what he needs to do, then that's awesome. We'll do that probably 2-3 times a week. Anytime we do our individual drills, It'll be infielders will be on the field when the outfielders and catchers are hitting. They go in the cages. A different way of us, we started doing things a little differently a couple of years ago, where we would just have strictly offensive cage days. No, not hitting on the field. And I found, kind of a side note, I found that the kids are a little bit more focused. We get a lot more reps in a short amount of time. We're not chasing balls all over the field. And when we do our field hitting, we still have guys in cages, but we use it more as kind of an incentive. You guys do well, we'll hit on the field.
Yeah.
Until then, you guys got to prove that you're willing to swing at 3-1 pitches correctly, swing at 2 pitches correctly, do those things. So, in doing that, we'll send the outfielders and catchers into the cage, and when it's their turn on the field, the catchers are strictly working catching stuff, receiving, blocks, footwork to throws, footwork to picks. We spend that time talking about pitch calling, whether it be coaches and signs, whether it be, you know, the catcher setup and catchers calling the game, and how we want that to happen. If we don't have that coach, which is a rough one, then we have to try to get a little bit more creative and teach the kids the drills, right? And so we'll spend some time and say, okay, so on our defensive individual days, you guys have to run these drills. And here's what a short hop drill looks like. A blocking drill looks like. Here's what we mean by receiving. And so now our 2 or 3 catchers can go do it on their own.
Yeah.
You know, it puts a lot of, you're putting a lot into their hands.
Sure.
And like you said, it's the most important position. If you don't have a guy that can receive well, you're not going to win many games.
Yeah.
He throws well, you can get around that. Hopefully you got guys in the bump that can keep him off the bases. But if he can't receive or block, it's going to be a really long season.
Yeah.
And based on who we have coming back and who our catchers are going to be, we may need to spend more time with them. If we got veteran guys, then we can let them work on their own a little bit. So a lot of that is determined, but we try to spend basically, if we're working on defense, catchers, you got to be working on your craft as well.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I was really fortunate this year, just in the first 2 weeks, my pitching coach, we being in a 2A school, you know, we don't really have any pitcher onlys, which I actually really like. So those guys all have a different position that they go to. And so it actually kind of freed us up. But my pitching coach, I said, you know, what do you think about doing catchers too? And he's like, yep, absolutely. And so that was huge, because I would say, hey, you got 20 minutes, outfielders, infielders, catchers, do our dailies and get through our stuff. And he'd take those guys down there. And one thing I started doing is I after listening to the LC state coach talk last year, we went totally to machines during the beginning of our season. And about a week into the season, we were really struggling, and then into the games, not the practices. And we went to machines for all of our hitting, and we came out and absolutely blasted the baseball the next week. And I won't ever go back, because we went breaking ball on one side and fastball on the other. Anyways, but with our catchers, everything was set up for that. So we put our catchers in the breaking ball cage, and they'd block. And then in the fastball cage, it was frame. And it was the same thing like you talked about with the 2 fungos or the 4 fungos. It's just rep, because you're getting that in your bullpens early, I feel like, but you're not getting that kind of one-on-one time with those guys to talk about, you know, all of those fundamental things we want them to do as catchers. And having those machines was huge. And we start every day with those guys catching off machines and blocking off machines and get that game speed. And that's been big for us.
Yeah, that's huge. Do you have any issues? Like, we try to bring out the machines, and I don't know if it's the machines that we're using or if it's the weather or what, but they're just all over the place. And so we spend more time trying to adjust them. We do it for our tryouts, and our tryouts are taking us 3-4 hours to get through hitting, because, you know,
change the machine. And I kind of like those old. I have 3 old jugs machines that one was mine growing up, one was my dad, you know, and they like are Agnew family machines, so they've kind of gone with me. And I like those because I throw fastball or leather balls through those, not machine balls, and it kind of gives you a funky look every once in a while. But we do all breaking ball off of that old blue one. And then we had a brand new A-Tech that we had bought at Kamiak, or they bought the year before I got there. And that threw real good fastballs. So we put machine balls through that, hard balls through the other one. And we kind of got that piece. And, we just talked to the kids about the breaking ball. Like, hey, every once in a while it's going to look kind of funky because it's coming through the machine weird, and you're getting – and that's what a pitcher is going to do, especially at the high school level. So that take is part of, your process as a hitter. So we just kind of use that to make that happen. And then what we did was we didn't have the kids feed the machines. The coaches fed the machines, so we could quickly get them adjusted. And that's tough early, with tryouts and stuff when you're trying to get guys through. But that was a big part of it too, was just, hey, 2 coaches are going to stand back here and do all of our coaching from behind the machine, so that if all of a sudden it gets a little funky, we can adjust it real quick and not have kids trying to figure out how to get it taken care of and all that. So that was big too. But yeah, using them for the catchers was a big piece of that. And that's made a big difference, I think, for us because of the reps and stuff.
Yeah, I like it.
All right. Daily routines for your hitters. What's that look like?
So typically we'll kind of all, we'll circle up. We're getting a big circle, and I usually kind of get in the middle, and we go through our progressions. And we've kind of adopted, the 5 steps where we have, just kind of hand movement and body movement just being relaxed. And then we go into our set, and then 1 would be load, 2 would be trigger, 3 to contact, extension, and finish. And we kind of go through that as a group, and I'll call out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we kind of speed it up as we go. So they're actually getting loose as they getting warm, getting loose as they go through the progressions till they're at full speed. Our progressions, we change up the drills daily, kind of like we talked about with fielding. I don't like the kids to know. Not necessarily, I don't want them to know in advance. I just don't want them to get so routine that they just know, hey, today these are the 5 things we're doing. These are the 5 things we're doing every single day.
Yeah.
And so we use a variety of things in the drills that we do, from helmet drills where they have to push off their back leg to try to get through the ball, as opposed to the old school squishing the bug, spinning. We do high tee. We do check swings. We'll do strike ball work where, we'll have a guy say swing or no, where they have to take, correct takes, and just a lot of different things that we can give our kids to try to make them, try to get them better. Then when they enter the cages, we have usually a live cage, and if we're on the field, we'll have a second one. But in that live cage is kind of our situational stuff. That's our, we're doing dead red counts, which is, for us, it's a 3-1, 2-0, 1-0, 0-0 count, where the tendency of getting a fastball is pretty good here, and we have to be geared up and ready to go. If you get a fastball, you don't miss it. If you get a curveball, you don't swing at it. And one of the hard things for our kids to understand is that if they're focused on fastball, they shouldn't be swinging a curveball.
Yeah.
Especially in a situation where you consider that dead red. Because you're not going to take a good pass at it. If you're thinking one, even if it's a belt high curveball, if you're thinking fastball, you're not going to have a great swing. It may be a good swing, not a great swing at it. So, and then we talk about 0-2 counts and 2-strike approach, and we'll put them in those situations where they have to go through that. We'll do off-speed days where we'll go hard, soft, where they have to understand the difference. And one of my favorites is a 3-plate drill, which I'm sure you've seen. But they'll start in the middle, then they go forward, so it speeds it up. Then they'll go backwards for it. So you can do machines or live arm, but it's basically they're changing the tendencies and the velocities. And then when they get into, if we're going live days, they'll be on the field. We like to give them situations, and I've kind of gone back and forth with what this means, but never want it to just be get in the cage and swing. There always has to be a reason for swinging, right?
Yeah.
We've talked about this before, where whether it's right side approach, or other way, whether it's hit and run approach or run and hit approach, and then last couple, hey, go ahead and tee off, go ahead and swing. But in the meantime, between those free swings, you've got to execute, and so that's kind of what we try to do on a daily basis, is give them executional things. They bunt every single day, and we go through sacks and drags and squeezes. And then if they want to push bunt, they can work on that, not a mandatory thing. And if they slash, and we work on slashes, and that's something that we have started doing the last probably 5-6 years, and it's gotten pretty good. I've gotten pretty good at it. But there's a very consistent process where the little things, as we talked about before, in my opinion, the little things that win the games are the things we have to spend most time on. So that's why the executionals are done consistently on a daily basis.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love it. I do something similar with the circle up to start, and I got this from watching the coach over at Bothell, and he played for a legend over here at Shadle Park, Ron Brooks. And so what I do is I get my guys around, and we start with an 0-0 count. And I talk to them a lot about having a focus on the emblem of the hat, so that when they come out to release point, their eyes don't have to refocus for that depth. And so they start with a focus here, and then I just go through, and basically I'll go through my windup. They set and load. And when I get to release point, if I'm here, they're reading a fastball and they're swinging. And if I'm here, they're reading a breaking ball and they're keeping their hands back and taking. And so we'll go, 0-0, boom. Okay, strike one. Now it's 0-1, boom. Okay, ball one. And we'll work our way through that. And then I get to 2 strikes, and I'll say, okay, now let's choke up, make our adjustment, And I started doing that 4 or 5 years ago, and that's been huge, because it takes the kids kind of through that mental process. They have to make their physical adjustment and their mental adjustment. And so I really like that idea, having the guys around you, every day, where you can kind of talk to them about what they're trying to do, and the mental piece of it. It's huge.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I like how you're changing the grip and making them see it and swing. We do a lot of the same stuff with the pitcher on the hill, but I've never used it. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's been good. And the kid, because I kind of would talk to the kids about that, and once I started doing this, every day it really made a big difference in how they saw that, and that's been huge for us. Right on. One other thing I wanted to add to that I started doing a couple years ago was I make the kids graduate. And so what that means for us, and my coaches would laugh hearing this, because in the first 2 weeks every day was gotta graduate. But we go like our execution round will be the first round, and you can't move on from that until you execute 100%. So sack to the right side, run around first base, sack to the left side, run around second base, safety squeeze. We don't do suicide squeeze, we just do safety squeeze. But so all they're doing is squaring around late, trying to get the ball to the right side, or just get it down away from the pitcher. Right side for like first and third, right, because the guy's being held there first. And then we go, I used to say drag, but now I just say bunt for a base hit. If you want to push, push. If you want to drag. And then the last one's a hit and run. And so they have to get all 5 of those done in one round to move on to the next one. Okay. And so, we'll go through 10 minutes of a guy trying to get that done, and everybody else is on the next round. And then the next day we could go, okay, hey, I want 5 balls hit to the other side of the field, and you got to graduate in order to get to the next round. And so that's always been something I've really enjoyed. And that's been just the last couple of years I've done that. But it's kind of, like you said, it kind of gives them forces them to execute a little bit, puts some pressure on them. And then we'll go round 1. Even odd rounds are, like you're talking about your 3-1 counts. We just call it fastball adjust. We're hunting a fastball. And then round 2 is our 2-strike approach. And they just go back and forth. Odds were fastball adjust, evens were 2 strikes. And see, they go back and forth. And so they're hitting with 2 strikes from day 1, which I always think is a good way of doing it. So those are some of the things we do that have been really successful for us, that I've just stolen from other coaches.
That's what we all do, right? So
yeah.
So when you do your graduation, so if you had, let's say, 3 rounds, you might have a kid that's his entire day is just that execution. And so what would the second round be? Would that just be straight live, like you can just swing away, or do you have another execution type round, different stuff?
Yeah, well, what I usually do, and then like I said, I'll adjust it, like you said, to be creative and keep things moving. But what we'll usually do is that bunt, hit and run, round one. And then round two is balls to the right side. And I don't make them graduate on that usually.
Right.
Like if we're struggling with that and I want them to kind of hit with 2 strikes and try to drive balls through the 4-hole, and let it get a little deep on them, that kind of stuff, then I'll start with that and make them graduate that. But I'll usually go graduate round one, and then they're right on to that. And if they pull 3 balls and hit 2 the other way, I let them move on to the next. So what we'll usually do is your graduation round, 5 swings, trying to hit the ball the other way, let it travel a little bit. Think about taking your barrel from your back hip through the ball and not getting around, all that good stuff that we want. And then after that, what I'll do is I'll just tell them odds are fastball, evens are 2-strike approach. And what we're looking for is just balls hit hard back off the L screen. We don't want rollovers. We don't want pop-ups. We want balls through that back panel. And that's kind of their goal is, I heard Alex Rodriguez say neck high line drives through the middle. And that's kind of always something I've talked about doing.
Yeah, that's good. I really like that.
Yeah.
We've always talked about how do we put the pressure on the kids to execute. And, I've always gone back and forth between, well, they got to execute, and if they don't, then the round's over.
Mm-hmm.
But then that's taken away meaningful reps.
Yes.
Or if if they don't execute, they got to go touch the fence.
Yep.
When they get back, they're so tired, they're not going to be execute then either. So
yeah.
I like the idea of you having to graduate, or you just stay there. You're still going to get the same amount of pitches.
Yeah.
They just may be in the same drill set.
Totally. And what I typically find is that the hardest one for them to get done is the drag and the push, because they're trying to run out of the ball, all that. Mm-hmm. And so if they give a good attempt and they stay in it, and maybe they bunt a ball foul down the third baseline, I graduate them for that, because we want it fair or foul anyways, right? So there is some leeway, and if a kid's just sitting there eating himself up because he's not graduating, I'm not going to let him do that for 45 minutes, but there again, it creates kind of a teachable moment. Like, hey, maybe we're picking up our first bucket and this kid's just eating himself up because he hasn't graduated yet. I'll pull him over, put my arm around him and say, hey, listen, man, take a deep breath, start over, and let's go execute. And a lot of times it's just that simple. They're just beating themselves up, and they just need to slow it down and move on. And then what we'll do is, 5 kids will be on the fastball side, 5 will be on the breaking ball side, and after about 15 minutes we switch. And so now they start over, or I'll say, hey, no graduation for your next round. So those kids go right in and hit off the breaking ball. So if they've been, struggling with the execution piece for 15 minutes, now they get to go over and hit and
clear the mind a little bit. Yeah.
Kind of pass them through a little bit. But yeah, it's the same thing. Like when we're trying to do hit and run on the field, what's that fine point for blowing up your drill, but also getting after them and putting something on them. And, so I usually, I won't make them run to touch the fence like the first time they do it. But, I've always said we don't want to make 3 mistakes in a row, and we want guys that are going to step up and stop that. Yeah. And so that's kind of typically been our thing is, hey, 3 in a row and there's something on. And so it's kind of cool, because what we'll get is, we'll be bunting, and then in a couple weeks into the season, it's like bunt a foul, pop a ball up, and then that third guy comes up and the kids are like, hey, let's go. We don't want to run. You know what I mean? And so you kind of create that mentality, and it's kind of fun to see them take ownership of that.
Yeah, that's good.
So
good.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Coach.
You bet. Thank you.